All right, everybody, welcome in. We've got a really interesting deep dive ahead of us today, especially for those of you who are newer to the world of software development. You know how crucial those technical skills are, but today we're shining the spotlight on a hidden superpower: communication. We're diving into this article, The Importance of Communication in a Software Team. And trust me, this is gold, especially if you're looking to level up your career game.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about communication. I've always found it fascinating how much we emphasize technical skills, which are obviously crucial, but this article really highlights communication as the secret sauce.
Right, it's like you can write the most elegant code in the world, but if you can't effectively communicate your ideas, collaborate with your team, and understand the needs of your clients or stakeholders, well, things can get messy fast.
And they do. This article doesn't sugarcoat it. It really emphasizes how communication impacts every single aspect of software development. From the success of your projects and the quality of your code to, you guessed it, your own career progression.
Yeah, and that's something I want to really emphasize for our listeners who are earlier in their careers. It's easy to get so caught up in the technical challenges that we forget the importance of building those communication skills.
Absolutely. And one of the things this article stresses is the importance of clear communication right from the get-go, especially during those initial planning meetings.
Oh, those planning meetings. I remember when I was starting out, those could be a little intimidating. You've got all these experienced developers in the room, and you don't want to ask a stupid question.
I've been there. But you know what? The article makes a really compelling argument that staying silent is actually far riskier than speaking up.
Because if you don't understand something, chances are someone else in the room doesn't either, right?
Exactly. And by asking those questions early on, you're not just clarifying things for yourself, you're helping the entire team get on the same page from the outset. It prevents those frustrating, wait, what are we doing moments down the line.
I feel like that's happened to every software team at some point.
Oh, I'm sure it has. And that's why the article really encourages less experienced developers to overcome that fear and just ask. Ask those questions, even if they seem basic.
It's about understanding that everyone was new once, right?
Exactly. And, the article actually gives this really great example, a scenario where a junior developer is given a task during a planning meeting, but doesn't fully grasp all the details. They're afraid to ask for clarification because, they don't want to look like they weren't paying attention.
Ooh, I've been there. You're trying to absorb everything, but sometimes it's just a lot of information to process all at once.
Absolutely. And in this scenario, the developer ends up staying silent, thinking they'll figure it out later. But guess what? That just creates more work for themselves and the team down the line. They end up having to go back and ask for clarification anyway, which slows everyone down.
Whereas if they had just spoken up in the meeting.
Exactly. It would have saved everyone time, headaches, and probably a lot of rework later on.
So, lesson learned. Asking questions, even those that seem obvious, is a sign of a good developer, not a weakness. It shows you're engaged, thinking critically, and invested in the project's success.
100%. Now, this next part of the article really resonated with me, and I think it's especially relevant in the context of software development. It's about the power of saying no.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Especially for newer developers, it can be tough to disagree with more senior team members.
You're right, it can be intimidating. You don't want to be seen as difficult or uncooperative, especially when you're still trying to prove yourself.
It's that whole being the new person thing, right?
Exactly. But here's where the article flips the script. It reframes saying no as a skill that demonstrates critical thinking, problem solving, and a nuanced understanding of the project.
Okay, so it's not just about being disagreeable,
It's about voicing your concerns constructively. And here's the key: offering alternative solutions.
it's that solution-oriented mindset that really makes a difference.
Precisely. And by doing this, you're not only contributing to a better end product, you're also showing that you're not afraid to speak your mind, that you're not just going to blindly agree with whatever's put in front of you.
Which, let's be honest, is a valuable trait in any field, but especially in software development, where things are constantly evolving and innovation is key.
You got it. Now, are you ready for another golden nugget from this article?
Hit me with it.
All right, this one's all about the importance of documentation.
Documentation, the developer's best friend. Or so I've heard.
Right. It's easy to think, oh, I'll remember this conversation, or it's just a small detail, no need to write it down. But trust me, as projects grow more complex,
Things get lost in the mix.
exactly. And that's where documentation comes in. The article stresses the importance of documenting everything. Your opinions, concerns, suggestions, even if they seem minor at the time.
It's about creating that paper trail, or I guess that digital trail, of your thought process.
Precisely. And, this is something that's super important for less experienced developers who are still building their reputation within a team. Clear documentation helps demonstrate your work ethic, your attention to detail, and your commitment to the project.
It's like saying, hey, I was here, I thought about this, and here's the reasoning behind my decisions.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything overly formal or time-consuming. Even a quick note in the project management tool or a shared document can make a world of difference.
It's all about creating that transparency and accountability.
You got it. Now, shifting gears a bit, the article also delves into the challenges of communicating with other stakeholders in the software development process, especially those who might not be as technically inclined.
Right. We can't forget about all the other amazing people involved in bringing a software project to life. We're talking about the quality assurance team, the product owners, even clients who may not be as familiar with all the technical jargon.
Exactly. It's about bridging that communication gap. And one thing the article emphasizes is that clear communication, especially when it comes to potential issues or roadblocks, is crucial for a smoother development process.
Because nobody likes a last-minute fire drill, right?
Exactly. Being upfront about potential challenges and explaining them in a way that everyone can understand helps build trust and ensures that everyone is working towards a shared goal.
It's about being a team player, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, what does the article suggest when it comes to explaining those complex technical concepts to, let's say, a non-technical product owner? Because we've all been in those situations where it feels like you're speaking different languages.
It's like that classic IT crowd scene. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Oh, for sure.
But really, it's all about finding that common ground. And the article really emphasizes the importance of simplifying your language, ditching the jargon and framing those technical challenges in a way that connects with the listener's understanding.
So instead of saying, we need to refactor this component to optimize for scalability, you might say.
You might say, we need to make some adjustments to this part of the system so that it can handle more users in the future.
I see. It's about focusing on the why behind the technical solution and using language that everyone can understand.
You got it. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, exactly, it's about finding that common ground. And speaking of common ground, another interesting point the article brings up is that sometimes product owners, they come to the table with solutions already in mind.
Oh, interesting. Instead of necessarily clearly outlining the problem.
Right. Like they have this vision, which is great. Enthusiasm is fantastic, but they may not always have considered all the technical angles.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of an idea without necessarily thinking through all the nuts and bolts of how it would actually work in practice.
Exactly. And, while their enthusiasm is great, those predetermined solutions they're bringing to the table, they might not always be the most, well, technically sound approach.
That's where those communication skills really come into play. Because as a developer, you're not just there to blindly implement someone else's vision, you're there to contribute your expertise, right?
You're a problem solver. This is your time to shine. Ask those questions that really get to the heart of the matter.
So it's almost like you're putting on your detective hat, right?
Yeah.
Trying to understand what's the root problem we're actually trying to solve here. And then from there, we can explore the best technical solutions.
I love that analogy because it really is about being like a technical consultant in a way, guiding the product owner towards the most effective outcome, even if it might be different from their initial vision.
And that type of proactive communication, that willingness to really dig deep and understand the problem, that not only showcases your technical skills, but it also shows that you're invested in the success of the product, right?
It shows you're a team player. And it demonstrates that you're not afraid to think outside the box and challenge assumptions, even if those assumptions are coming from someone in a more senior position.
Which, let's be honest, never hurts when you're trying to build a strong reputation and advance in your career.
Exactly. And you know what? The article explicitly states that this type of proactive communication, this problem-solving attitude, it's highly valued by employers. It shows that you're not just writing code, you're thinking strategically about how that code contributes to the bigger picture.
It's about being an invaluable member of the team, not just someone who can churn out lines of code, but someone who can really think critically and contribute to those high-level discussions.
Exactly. And speaking of valuable contributions, you want to know how this article wraps up? It pulls everything together beautifully.
All right, lay it on me. What's the grand finale?
Yeah.
The big takeaway.
It all comes back to the idea that being a truly valuable member of a software development team, it's about more than just, your technical skills. It's about actively contributing to a positive and productive team environment. And unsurprisingly, effective communication is at the very heart of that.
Yeah, when everyone's on the same page and communication's flowing, it's like the team just hums, right?
Exactly. And it goes beyond just like avoiding misunderstandings or keeping the project on track. Good communication, it actually elevates the entire development experience.
I bet. So it's not just about like the work itself. It's about the people you're working with, the relationships you're building, and how those relationships ultimately contribute to a better product.
100%. You said it better than I could. When you feel good about the work you're doing and the people you're working with, well, that's when the magic happens, right? You're more motivated, you're more engaged, and ultimately you produce your best work.
So it sounds like for anyone listening who's either just starting out in their software development career, or even for those who are more seasoned, but maybe looking to take things to the next level, finding that sweet spot of technical expertise and strong communication skills, that's really the key to a successful and fulfilling career.
Absolutely. And the article leaves us with this really thought-provoking question. How can you, as a developer, take the initiative to improve your communication style, like starting today? What can you do within your team right now?
It's a call to action. It's like,
Right.
all right, we've talked about all these great concepts. Now, how are you actually going to put them into practice?
Exactly. And sometimes it's those small changes that can make a world of difference.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything huge, right? Like, what's one small step someone could take?
Well, how about this? Next time you're in a team meeting, challenge yourself to ask at least one question, even if you feel a little nervous about it.
I love that. Sometimes it just takes that initial push to get out of your comfort zone.
Right. And once you do it once, it gets easier.
Exactly. It's like anything else. The more you practice those communication muscles, the stronger they become.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of practice, remember those documentation tips we talked about? Why not put those into action too?
It's such a simple thing, but it can make a world of difference.
It really can. And hey, here's another challenge for you. Next time you're working with someone who doesn't live and breathe code, try explaining a technical concept to them in a way that they can actually understand.
It's like a little communication workout.
Mm.
Plus, it's a great way to build stronger relationships with your colleagues across different disciplines.
It's all about building bridges and creating a more collaborative, inclusive team environment.
And at the end of the day, when you think about what makes a successful software developer, it's not just about being technically brilliant. It's about being able to communicate effectively, collaborate with others, and contribute to a positive team dynamic.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about being that well-rounded developer, both technically and interpersonally. Those are the developers that really shine.
And who knows, maybe that next promotion, it's not just about your coding skills. It's about your ability to communicate your ideas clearly, to work effectively with others, to really be a leader within your team.
Now that's food for thought.
It is. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the power of communication for software developers. We hope this has given you some valuable insights and, more importantly, some actionable steps that you can take to level up your communication game.
Remember, communication is a skill. Just like anything else, the more you practice it, the better you'll become.
So go out there, speak your mind, don't be afraid to ask those questions, and watch as your impact grows, both within your team and throughout your entire career.
Until next time, happy coding, and even more importantly,
Happy communicating.